Do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy.
Vice President Kamala Harris dodging a question right out of the gate on Tuesday. Her performance garnered near universal praise from pundits. But the New York Times reporting undecided voters were not totally sold. Want to bring in Philippe Reines, principal at CKR Solutions and a former advisor to Hillary Clinton. Did you all practice that question, Philippe, of are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
Look, I mean, we all lived it. You don't have to practice it.
No, but did you practice the question? Like, was she prepared to answer it?
Clearly she was.
That was an answer?
Knew that 4 years ago. The problem here is Donald Trump likes to act like he wasn't president for 4 years, like he doesn't have a record. And it was important to the vice president to make sure people remembered that. 4 years ago, we were all hunkered down in our homes, wearing masks whenever we left, and people were out of jobs. The inflation was sky high. That's the truth of the matter, and that's what people need to be reminded, and that's what Donald Trump makes very tough for people to remember, because obviously he doesn't want them to remember. And that's what the vice president, who, you know, looked awfully presidential on Tuesday night, did.
So, Philippe, you're not the first Biden-Harris, or now Harris, surrogate to say, well, 4 years ago, we were all hunkered down in our homes, we had masks on, as if the pandemic were President Trump's fault, as if Biden and Harris wouldn't have been calling for the government to be shut down. They did, and they continue to ask for the schools to be closed going forward. I mean, can you really say that with a straight face? The economy was going great before COVID, and COVID was not Trump's fault.
I have a straight face right now. What COVID was a once-in-a-century pandemic. What Donald Trump did in terms of, A, saying it's not a big deal, it's going to go away, which was a lie, and he knew it was a lie, telling people that they didn't really have to wear masks. He never set an example of wearing masks, telling people to put horse poison that is used to get worms out of cows into their bloodstream. And look, he prolonged it. It's as simple as that. He prolonged it.
But he also got the vaccine done.
If President, hold on, Dana, if President Biden...
I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, but I just think that trying to suggest that 4 years ago that the Biden-Harris administration would have just done everything in COVID differently is it's just really hard to take. Let me ask you about this. The New York Times...
Look at what they did as soon as they came in. They handled COVID differently.
Yeah. In fact, they passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which raised inflation.
Because Donald Trump did not do anything to keep things quiet. If he had told people to wear masks, he probably would be president to this day. I mean, that's the bottom line here. COVID was the ultimate fact checker for Donald Trump. It was the first time he could not lie himself out of a situation. It's as simple as that. He wasn't in a Wuhan lab
Can I ask you
it up.
about going forward? Because I think that it's fascinating that you have had this front seat in so many debates and helping candidates get ready. Hillary Clinton, now Kamala Harris. That's an incredible honor. And she has gotten a lot of praise for a really good debate. She didn't collapse. In fact, she was quite a strong competitor. But the New York Times said this about the actual outcome, saying that voters said the vice president talked about a sweeping vision to fix the country's most stubborn problems, but they wanted the fine print. So if she missed an opportunity to get to those voters then, is there a new strategy? One, like, for example, more media interviews, more town halls, or even another debate? I know that you've said that you want another debate.
Yeah, I mean, left to Kamala Harris, she would be out there as much as possible. I mean, you weren't even three-quarters of the way to debate before she said, let's do another one. And it's Donald Trump who's saying no. But I'll stay narrowly on your question. Kamala Harris, despite being the vice president for 3.5 years, is still a quantity that's not entirely known, which is not that odd for the position. She wants people to know. That started with her convention speech that took place Tuesday night. It's going to take a lot of forms from here on out. What we saw Tuesday night was Donald Trump trying to prevent that. This is not two people who say, well, on the one hand, I want to do this, and on the other hand, he wants to do that. This is someone who was two people who were in a job interview One of them was answering the questions. The other one had a chainsaw trying to prevent anyone from hearing what she said. And look, Dana, I have done this now twice, 9 years apart. And anyone who watches, the same way people who watched Joe Biden made this comment, Donald Trump is not the same man. He just isn't. His language is decompensating. I mean, I had a really, really hard time. And I know people are going to think that that is partisan and mean. But anyone who watches him, I mean, the child care interview he gave last week was just a word salad. I'm sorry.
Are we going? Are
and,
you
know,
Philippe? Do you really
one,
want to go down the word salad buffet line here?
Yes, I do.
You do?
I do.
How much
Because
time
what
do
we
you
saw
have?
Tuesday night was someone who absolutely could answer every question without the famous teleprompter. And look, I've watched every rally and speech President Trump has given over the last 6 months. That guy uses a teleprompter, and there's a big difference when he does and doesn't. He actually should use it more than he does, because something like childcare is important, and I don't know where he stands on it.
Let me ask you a last question. Will you play J.D. Vance in the upcoming prep? You are?
I will not. I was originally slated to, and when there was the switch, I got elevated. You know, JD, I think, is I had looked at him. He is a very, very good debater. He had 2 debates in Ohio in his race. He is solid. I think it's probably going to be his best.
Okay. Well, maybe you'll come back before
so
then, and we'll have more time. We'll go down the buffet line and talk about word salads.
Anytime you invite me, I'll be back.
Philippe, okay, thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.